If you're looking for a job in 2024, I have some bad news. It doesn't look like the job market is going to be getting any better anytime soon. Last week, the jobs report for July was released, and I know this is kind of old news at this point, but I feel like talking about it anyway. Every month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics releases a jobs report, which gives information about unemployment, how many jobs were added to the economy in that month, what sectors were adding the most jobs. And the most recent jobs report came in way below analyst expectations, but I think it's even worse than they're letting on. This is my first time analyzing a jobs report in this much detail, so please be patient with me. But now I'm going to tell you why I think the job market is worse than they're telling you. The jobs report starts with the most basic statistics. The unemployment rate rose to 4.3% in July, and non-farm payroll employment edged up by 114,000, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. Employment continued to trend up in healthcare and construction and in transportation and warehousing, while information lost jobs. First of all, analysts were expecting an unemployment rate of 4.1%. Now, it might not seem like a big difference, but it is. This is thousands more Americans unemployed than they were expecting, hundreds of thousands. This second part of the sentence, non-farm payroll employment, it basically just means how many jobs were added to the economy. And the number is 114,000 jobs were added in July. But once again, this is way lower than analysts were expecting. They were projecting upwards of 170,000 jobs. And the second thing I want to point out is that this unemployment rate of 4.3%, this is the highest unemployment has been in 3 years. It was at this level as we were coming out of the pandemic and the economy was opening back up, but unemployment is rising again. Now, what does this mean for the job market? What this means is that more Americans are going to be competing for the same jobs. And the job market is just going to keep getting more and more competitive as the unemployment rate rises. There's also just less jobs in general, depending on what sector you're working in. That Friday that the jobs report was released, the stock market was down significantly that day as well. Overall, from what I can tell, the jobs report is just kind of bad news all around. But there were a few things that stuck out to me that I kind of learned while I was reading this document, because like I said, this is my first time analyzing a jobs report in detail. And after reading through it a little bit, I have a feeling that the job market is worse than they are telling us. 4.3% unemployment rate does not tell the whole story. So we're on the second page here, and it starts with the unemployment rate rose by 0.2 percentage points to 4.3% in July. And the number of unemployed people increased to 7.2 million. That is a lot of people without jobs. These measures are higher than a year earlier when the jobless rate was 3.5% and the number of unemployed people was 5.9 million. But there's one paragraph here that really stuck out to me, and it's the third to last one from the bottom. It says, the number of people not in the labor force who currently want a job increased by 366,000 to 5.6 million in July. I read that, I was like, what does that mean? That's kind of contradictory, not in the labor force, but you want a job. The definition of unemployment is a lot more strict than most people realize, but it's even more strict than I thought. To be unemployed, you need to not have a job, but you also want to have a job, and you have to be actively looking for work. You can see in the second sentence, it says, these individuals were not counted as unemployed because they were not actively looking for work during the 4 weeks preceding the survey or were unavailable to take a job. So 5.6 million, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people who are out of a job. If you include them in unemployment metrics, the number becomes way higher. It's upwards of 10 million Americans unemployed. I can't do the mental math of the percentage right now. My question is how are these people surviving? The next paragraph says, among those not in the labor force who wanted a job, the number of people marginally attached to the labor force at 1.6 million was little changed in July. These individuals wanted and were available for work and had looked for a job sometime in the prior 12 months, but had not looked for work in the 4 weeks preceding the survey. The number of discouraged workers, a subset of the marginally attached who believed that there were no jobs available for them, also changed a little at 405,000 in July. So there are millions of Americans who want a job, but for whatever reason, they're not looking for a job. They're not actively looking for work. And I think it's so funny that the job market is so bad. People are just straight up giving up. They have lost hope. Like before I graduated college and I was looking for jobs, I was just like applying to everything. I was applying to jobs like my life depended on it until I finally got something. But now it's so bad that people have just given up completely. And this isn't the only issue that I noticed with the jobs report. I noticed that there are also millions of Americans who are underemployed. The number of people employed part-time for economic reasons rose by 346,000 to 4.6 million in July. These individuals who would have preferred full-time employment were working part-time because their hours had been reduced or they were unable to find full-time jobs. So there are so little full-time jobs in this job market and it's so competitive to get them that people are being forced to work part-time. This video has been all doom and gloom so far, but there is good news. The good news is this means we're more likely to get an interest rate cut soon. This whole job market situation started in 2022 when the Federal Reserve started raising interest rates because they had to get inflation under control. And when interest rates rise, it makes it harder for companies to grow. They slow down hiring, they lay off employees in order to cut costs. We saw this in 2022 and 2023, but the unemployment is getting to a point now where economists are saying that the Federal Reserve might have to cut rates even more than they were originally planning to. I just don't think it's sustainable for this many Americans to be unemployed right now. It's not good for anyone to have this many Americans out of work. It's not good for the US government. It's not good for the economy because you have less people earning money and spending money. It's less tax revenue for the government as well. And most of all, it's bad for the unemployed who are having to dip into their savings, pause their investing, things like that. But here's more good news. When we get a rate cut, it will send the stock market higher because I don't think that the stock market has fully priced in an interest rate cut yet. It's kind of in this middle ground of it's not sure whether we're going to get a rate cut or not. But if they have to cut rates more than expected, that will send the stock market way higher, no matter what. Because let's say they were expecting a 0.25% rate cut, but then it's 0.5%. That will be huge for the stock market. And with the recent dip and crash that the stock market has taken, now could be a great time to buy in. If you have cash sitting on the sidelines or whatever, not financial advice, but this could be a great time to buy in. And the last piece of good news is this job report can actually give you some direction if you're just starting out your career, if you're young, if you're trying to figure out what direction to go in. You can see what industries are doing well right now. This past month, 55,000 jobs in the healthcare sector were added, more than any other sector. Construction, transportation, warehousing saw gains. And this is something interesting. Information employment declined by 20,000 in July. Like I've said before on this channel, tech workers and IT workers are getting hit really hard right now with layoffs and just competitiveness in the job market. So if you're young watching this video, I would consider going for a job in the healthcare sector. You know, it's an industry that's always going to need people. It's not going anywhere. And there's clearly still a demand for it. They added 55,000 jobs in 1 month. But then again, I'm just a dude on the internet who probably doesn't know what he's talking about. So take it with a grain of salt. So that is where the job market is at in 2024. Unemployment is getting higher. it's probably worse than they're telling us. Millions of Americans are out of work. Several 100,000 Americans are underemployed. And I know it seems really bad right now, but I think give it another year or 2 years and we'll start to see hiring pick back up a little bit. Because like I said, this isn't sustainable. This can't go on forever. If you're unemployed watching this video, you may be wondering what you can do to improve your chances of landing a job. I delved a little bit into that in this video, or maybe it's right here, I don't know, but watch it. Thank you all so much for watching, and in the end, financial freedom will prevail.